Welcome into the Frog Factor podcast. I'm your host, Steven Simcox. I'm going to run down the 5 players that I want to see play against Abilene Christian. This is the annual FCS game for TCU, but in my mind, there's still some exciting things about it. I'll talk about the ACU Wildcats here in a little bit, the threat that they pose, what they've done in the past. But if TCU takes care of their business and comes out focused, this is a good opportunity for young players to get some good playing time later on in the show. A former TCU coach and current radio analyst is rubbing elbows with the College Football Playoff Committee. I'll tell you why I think that's a good thing moving forward for TCU and the Big 12 in general. But we start today on Saturday night at 7 o'clock at the Carter, home opener for the Frogs, taking on Abilene Christian. The Wildcats are 1-1 in the season. They played Tulsa in their season opener, lost that game 35-7. They played Stephen F. Austin last Saturday. They won that game 28-20. Let me get this caveat out of the way. Never take your opponent lightly. Be focused, all those things. Any given Saturday, yes, those things are true. Last season, if you paid attention in the beginning of the year, Texas Tech almost lost at home to Abilene Christian. They won that game 52-51 in overtime, had to stop a 2-point conversion to get the victory. Now, that ACU team was different. Maverick McIvor was their quarterback, really good player. He transferred to Western Kentucky. They also had a good running back who left the program after last season. Sonny Dykes did say in his press conference today that this is the 13th ranked team in FCS. That is widely different than Long Island, who they played last year, which was a team that hovered around 500 consistently as their coach Ron Cooper had been there for a few seasons. They were not a factor in the FCS playoffs. Abilene Christian appears to be a better team than that. But this is still a team that lost by 28 points to Tulsa. It's a game where TCU, if they come out focused, if they play well, they should handle their business. So what I'm looking for in this ball game, the first thing is I just think it's a good chance for TCU to once again show their mental maturity. I felt like they did a great job in that season opener against North Carolina. I said this during the offseason and leading up to that North Carolina game, and I felt kind of stupid after the first drive, to be honest. But I mentioned that, people have been drawing this comparison to Colorado all offseason long. How it's so similar. Bill Belichick starting his college football debut. There's a bunch of hype around UNC. It was similar to the hype around Deion Sanders in Colorado, even though it was a slightly different level because Deion's such a personality. But you see the point. And that TCU team was not up to the challenge. And Sonny said at media days, and I've seen him say other places in interviews, look, we weren't mentally ready for the challenge in front of us. We thought that was going to be an easy game, a game we won comfortably. It got tight, and we couldn't find a way to keep up and do what we had to do against that Colorado team. You saw a very different performance by TCU in this game against North Carolina, where they were up to the challenge. They didn't take their foot off the gas. They got punched in the mouth early. They recovered. They returned that punch. Well, not a similar situation here, but another opportunity to show that you were a player-led team, a team that has some urgency, that understands what it takes to be great. It's the home opener. That should help a little bit, but I don't expect an overly juiced-up crowd on Saturday night. So to a certain extent, you have to manufacture your own energy and find a way to get revved up and ready for this football game and ready to play every snap to the best of your ability. If they can do that, they should run away with this ball game and then get to what we're talking about, guys that we want to see. So the first player that I'd love to see out there playing football for TCU is Adam Schobel. Jacob Langford asked me on Monday, he said, do you think we'll see Adam Schobel on Saturday? I would hope so. I can't say for sure. I was trying to think back. Last year against Long Island, Haas didn't play. Ken Seals played the majority of the second half. Now, if I remember right, Haas had an ankle injury. It wasn't widely publicized because it didn't have to be since he was a backup quarterback. They didn't need to give an injury update on him. That'll be a new thing in Big 12 conference games this year. TCU will have to give injury updates leading up to the ball game. But they didn't publicize that he rolled his ankle against Stanford. However, he did, and he wasn't available for that ball game. So it made total sense I mean, Ken Seals was really your only option. A couple years back against Tarleton, Max Duggan started the game, and then Chandler Morris was dealing with a knee injury, so Sam Jackson played the majority of the second half. If it were me making the decision, I would give Adam Schobel as many reps as I could, on Saturday. In a perfect world, Josh Hoover plays the first half. I think you need to give Ken Seals a couple drives because he is your backup QB. Like, I think if Josh Hoover got hurt, God forbid, but if it happened, Ken Seals would be the guy to step in and take over. And so he needs to understand, like, even though he's a veteran and I know he's played at Vandy and started there, he needs to get that game speed feel, get those reps in live action. But I feel like I know what Ken Seals can do. I mean, no disrespect to him. I think he's been a very valuable piece to the puzzle the last few years because it's very difficult to find experienced backup QBs who, just to be frank about it, are okay being backups. Most quarterbacks want to play, and most veteran QBs, they want an opportunity to start. If they're transferring somewhere, it's with the idea of, okay, I can go here. I at least have a chance to compete for the job and show what I can do. And then if worse comes to worse, I'm one snap away from being in that spot where I'm the dude. Ken Seals came to TCU, I think, knowing that this wasn't going to be a competition, and he stuck around, he stayed in there. And what it's allowed TCU to do is have young quarterbacks that they like and that are promising and they're the future of the program, but also have a guy on the roster who, if you need him to step in emergency action, you can feel okay about him doing that. And at least the processing part of it, he can handle. But Adam Schobel, in my mind, it would just be super beneficial as a true freshman. Let him get out there and get some snaps, even if you're just going to let him hand off the ball. But in a perfect world, let him sling it around a little bit, you know? I mean, that was a frustrating thing last season in my mind about when they let Haas play. And I understand it was package specific, meaning like they had a very clear vision in mind for what they wanted to do when he was in the ball game. And that was run the ball, milk the clock, get first downs on short yardage. But they never gave him the opportunity to throw the ball. And I think ultimately that played a factor. The decision was made because he looked at the writing on the wall and said, Josh Hoover's here for at least one more year, maybe two. I don't want to sit on the bench that long. He goes to Oklahoma State, wins the job. Unfortunately, he has an injury. But that was the reason why he left. I do, however, think that part of it was they never gave me a chance to let loose and throw the football. So that kind of tells you how they felt about his ability to do it and just what they felt about him as a passer, right? So I'd like to see Adam Schobel out there throwing the ball around, give him those reps, give him those opportunities. He is the future of this program at quarterback right now. I know it changes year to year with the transfer portal and everything that has gone on, but at least as we're talking here on September 10th, he's the next dude in line when you talk about the guy that's going to lead this program moving forward. Jack Dalton will have something to say about that. Jerry Meyer, if he ends up signing, he's a 2027 commit, plays quarterback at Waxahachie right now. He'll have something to say about it. But Adam Schobel's the guy in the immediate. So you need to have him ready if worse comes to worse, and he needs to play later on in the season. My second player, and you might be surprised that I'm naming true freshmen here. I've said this before, but I'll remind you. I don't think red shirts matter much anymore. And that might sound stupid to you. I know as a head coach, you have to think about it, at least to some extent. But guys, the way college football is moving right now, it behooves you to play these young players. The biggest threat to keeping talented players around is the transfer portal. You are recruiting guys into your program, and then you are re-recruiting them every year. And I know that's frustrating for coaches. I realize it's frustrating for fans, but it's also just the reality of the situation. You're in a constant battle of, hey, I know it might look like the grass is greener over there, but hang with us. We have a plan for you. We know you're here. We know you're talented. We want to give you playing time. So that being said, there's still the rule that you can play in 4 games in redshirt. And I know in a perfect world, that's what coaches want. That's what, in a lot of cases, parents and players want. I don't think you can worry about that as much as you did even 10 years ago. I was talking with a friend at lunch today about a college QB who had to play the second half because the starter got hurt. He was a backup. He played the second half of that game and he burned his red shirt. He burned a year of eligibility because at that time it was like you stepped on the field. That was how it was. And that was such a big story in the local media at the time. It was like, man, what a selfless act by this quarterback being okay burning the red shirt. I'm not sure he had a choice, but you know what I mean. That was a big storyline. You can't worry about those things anymore. Second player I'm looking at is Chad Woodfork. And Chad was the prized recruit of this 2025 class. True freshman player from Summer Creek in Humble, Texas. Looks like an edge rusher. Like if you put into Chat GPT, give me the ideal frame for an edge rusher, Chad Woodfork would pop up. Like that's who he is, right? I'm not setting off alarm bells. I was a little surprised we didn't hear more from him in fall camp. Understand these things are fluid. Media has a limited practice availability. Sonny Dykes likes to keep these things close to the vest to a certain extent. I just didn't hear a ton about what he was doing, how he was working within the rotations. And I saw Jeremy Clark from Horned Frog Blitz. I believe he mentioned that he wasn't even really working at stud linebacker as much as I thought. It was more defensive end edge, that Zach Chapman role. But I would like to see him get out there and play and just see what he's got, right? I feel like you need situational edge rushers as the season goes on. I thought the pass rush was formidable against North Carolina. You could see it looked better. Now, UNC, I mean, we've talked at length about it over the past week. Who knows how good they are? I don't think they're as good in the trenches as a lot of teams that TCU will play this year. But still, that's what you want. And in my mind, another thing that TCU needs to take a step forward with this year in this FCS game, show that you can dominate a team like this up front in the offensive defensive line. Like run the ball effectively, pressure the quarterback all night. That should be a big advantage for you against teams like this. And Woodfork is an example of a guy that they're just going to have so much more depth than the Wildcats at these trench positions. Give them an opportunity to come off the edge and make plays, give them some confidence and something to look forward to for the rest of the season. Third player who was the standout of fall camp, Jacoby Hayes, Juice Hayes as they've nicknamed him, the wide receiver from Midlothian, was supposed to go play at North Texas. On signing day, he flips and he ends up at TCU and had a great run during fall camp. Didn't see him really at all in the season opener against North Carolina. But first game, you got some veteran wide receivers, McAllister, Dwyer, Manjack, that did a good job. This is a chance, though, whether it's with Josh Hoover or Ken Seals or late in the game with hopefully Adam Schobel taking some snaps, to get him involved in the offense and get him involved with players that he's worked with during practice. If you have an opportunity to put your second-team offense in there and make a wholesale change, go for it. Or at least your second-team skill players, maybe you leave the first-team offensive line there for a little bit longer to make sure everybody's clean in the pocket and you can make some plays. He stepped up and made big-time plays from everything we heard in fall camp. Need to see him on the field. And maybe, in special teams too. Dwyer took the punt returns in that season opener and for the most part just made fair catches, which I'm fine with. I think rule number one is ball security. J.P. Richardson did a good job of that last year, but he also had the explosive return for a touchdown against Kansas. As long as you're not fumbling, doing things like that, it's all right. But Hayes is another option, especially if Major Everhart continues to be out, of somebody who could have some fireworks out there and make some things happen. Kamorian Pimpton, number 4. That's not the number he wears, but he's my 4th player that I want to see in this ball game. I mentioned him on Monday. He's healthy. He missed all fall camp with an injury. To me, this is the perfect situation. And I'm most intrigued by just how Kendall Browse is going to use him. He's a tight end. That's his position. But in high school, they moved him all over the field. Didn't really see that happen at LSU, but I've heard from people that cover LSU. Brian Kelly, he has an idea in mind of how he wants that position played. And it really starts with physicality and catching the ball is a secondary thing. Well, the good thing for TCU is they've got 2 tight ends, and DJ Rogers, I don't want to make it sound like he's just an inline blocker. He's also a very athletic player. But they've got a couple of players in DJ Rogers and Chase Curtis who can be physical and can block and can do those things, and that allows you to give Kamorian some opportunities where he's most comfortable, which is catching the ball and making plays. I think he could be a threat in the red zone. He's 6'6", big guy, big frame, and he's another weapon for this team. There are multiple players within this offense, whether it's Hayes, Ed Small, Jordan Bailey, now Pimpton being healthy. I think you can throw Chase Curtis in there too, even though I feel like his value is more with what he can do on the line of scrimmage. But at the same time, he can also catch the ball and move well when he does. So Kamorian's another option out there of just a player that Josh Hoover can get the ball to. And so I'd like to see him out there playing and getting some opportunities in this ball game. And then finally, this one will surprise you because I've said young players. This is not a young player. This is a guy that's been around for 3 seasons now, but missed all of last year due to injury and did not play a snap in the season opener against North Carolina, and that's Avery Helm. I saw Steven Johnson from 4-Star Telegram. He was on site on Tuesday covering the Sonny Dykes press conference. Sonny Dykes praised Channing Canada, who earned one of the 2 starting quarterback spots. He said Canada grew a lot at the end of the season and is playing with confidence and physicality. He also said he anticipates that we'll see Avery Helm against Abilene Christian. Helm dressed out but did not record a snap against UNC per Pro Football Focus. So I've been on the thought process, or was all offseason long, that your 2 starting corners would be Avery Helm and Channing Canada. And even though Avery was coming back from an ACL injury, I just felt like his experience would be valuable at that position. Well, that's not how it shook out in week 1. He wasn't on the field. And it surprised me. I went back and watched it. I think actually after the game I said something because I thought I saw him out there in real time. But then I watched it back and no, he wasn't out there. Pro Football Focus, as Steven Johnson said, he wasn't on the field. I still think he can be a really good player for this team. And I feel good about the depth that this team has at defensive back. I agree with Coach Dykes about Channing Canada. He has really grown up in the past, the back half of last season and then a 1-game sample size here. Vernon Glover, I know, is a young player that they really like who stepped up and made plays. McIvor came on at the end of last season as a dude who can get things done. But if you add Avery Helm into that mix, that's another veteran presence in that corner room who can go toe-to-toe each and every week with some of the best wide receivers in the conference. And the bottom line is you need depth there. Like, that's a position that is just constantly under evaluation. I think you could argue, quarterback is the toughest because there's just so many things involved in it. But you could argue being a corner in modern football is the hardest job out there. You're on an island so much of the time. There's so many complicated concepts now in the passing game that you have to read and react to and pass off. And you don't know what's happening pre-snap. Like, as simple as it sounds, the receiver knows where they're going. You don't. And you're constantly just having to react and try your best to make up that ground if you do lose it. It's a tough job. So last season we saw JT Broughton started the year really effectively and then struggled after that. They had to make some adjustments. His health and his ability to play, even if it's just sparingly here early in the season, is a good thing for this TCU team. And you need as much depth at that spot as you can get because it's helpful for your football team. It's just one of those things you got to have. You need players who can rotate in and out and play athletically and mentally with big-time wide receivers. So, yes, Abilene Christian, can they come in there and give TCU a game? They could. I hope they don't. But I really feel like, one, this is a good test for this team's mentality again. Allow them to show what they can do, right? Like, manufacture your own energy. Get your own motivation going. Find a way to show the world you're not going to play with your food. You're going to handle your business. You're going to do your thing. But then also, it's a great chance, and maybe the last chance you have all season. I mean, I hope that there's some blowouts moving forward. And usually, even if you're having a down year, there's at least one where things are clicking and it gets out of hand and you can throw some guys out there. But you're playing SMU next week. You're playing Arizona State on a short week after that. There's a lot of tough games coming up on the schedule. And you might need these young guys in those situations later on in the year where they're kind of thrown in the fire because of injuries or because of rotations, and you need them to make plays. So this is most likely the last chance you have in a low-stakes, low-stress environment. Say, you know what? Let's give these guys an opportunity to get out there and play, and let's just see what they can do. Let's evaluate them. You can only evaluate so much in practice. I mean, you can, but it's not the same as how are these players going to react when it's live and real? How do they react when there's something on the line, when it means something? You have that chance to at least get a taste of it if you give them opportunities when they play Abilene Christian this upcoming week. Before we go, I saw this news coming down from the college football playoff. Justin Fuente has been named the senior advisor for football for the CFP. We are excited to have Justin join the CFP, Clark said. He's well respected among his peers in college football. He has an impressive knowledge of the game and understands the perspective of coaches and players. He'll be a great fit for our team. This is a newly created role. Fuente will be responsible for providing guidance on designated operational matters that enhance the overall quality of CFP, including consulting with the FBS conference offices, medical offices. He'll also work with the CFP staff on the implementation of playoff policies and best practices related to game operations, officiating technology, and other policy considerations. So Justin Fuente, former TCU offensive coordinator, who of course was the play caller when they won the Rose Bowl and then was the head coach at Memphis for a while, had some success there, was the head coach at Virginia Tech, didn't go as well in that tenure, and decided this offseason, you know what, I'm not really into this new world of college sports and college athletics. It's not what I signed up for. It's not what I wanted to do. So I'm going to take a step back and retire. But he's the color commentator for the TCU radio broadcast and now has what I assume is a full-time job here with the college football playoff. Now, this is not the committee that he's working with, but I still think this is good news. TCU and the Big 12 need as many people as possible in those buildings and in those spaces sticking up for the league. I have become frustrated as Brett Yormark has gone on a media tour this offseason. Well, now we're in the season, but you know what I mean. Talking about the future of the college football playoff and the format and saying, hey, we want to earn it on the field and we want only one guaranteed bid and have all these at-large bids. Because I keep saying to myself, you don't seem to understand. The committee doesn't respect you. And so it's going to be really hard to get at-large bids if they don't feel like you can measure up to the Big Ten and the SEC. So I realize this is not someone working directly with the College Football Playoff Committee, but I still think it's a good thing that we have someone who's familiar with TCU and familiar with the Big 12, even though, I guess when he was at TCU, they were in the Mountain West. But you know what I mean. It's just good to have that proximity to the playoff. And I hope that maybe there's some more of those opportunities moving forward for TCU and other Big 12 schools. On Friday, I will get more into, okay, what does ACU's personnel look like? What does the game look like on Saturday? We'll also have a Big 12 football preview for the weekend. Mike Gundy. My goodness, is it finally going to end at Oklahoma State. We'll talk about all that on Friday. It's the Frog Factor podcast. Thanks for listening, everybody.